Okay, I'm Chris Ferguson for the AllStar Sports, and today I have joining me Mr. Jack Jenkins. He's the eternal featherweight champion currently. He's fighting out of Melbourne, Australia, and he sports a record of 9 wins and 2 losses in professional MMA. And he's been called up to the Contender Series on September 27. Before we get into that, mate, how are you today? What's been going on? Bit of trading?
Yeah, good. No, I've got sparring tonight, so the morning off. But I'm helping one of my boys cut weight for a fight tomorrow night. So I'm just helping him in and out of the sauna, doing the good teammate type
You
thing.
are a good bloke. Proper good bloke, mate.
Yeah.
So we'll get into this Contender Series thing straight up. You were scheduled for your 4th featherweight title defense at Eternal 70. Lo and behold, you get the call up to the Contender Series just a few weeks after the fight was announced. Can you take us through that process and what that was all like?
Yeah, well, we got told we were getting good feedback from the UFC pretty much immediately after the Rod Costa fight. That Contender Series was looking good. We were getting good feedback, and then it got to the point, because the Contender Series is so long, it's 10 weeks, and it got sort of to the first couple of weeks, and we went, look, we can't just wait on, good intentions, so needed to get something booked. So I just booked the fight with Justin, even considering that I was probably going to get the call up anyway. And we told Justin that and the promotion and stuff as well, so everyone was aware of it. And then, after like a week after we made the announcement, the UFC called and ended up getting on their week 10, the final week of Contender Series, which is turning out to be a big one. It's Bo Nickel is on that card as well, myself, one of the champions from England, so it's a big card.
Very big card, mate. I didn't realise Bo Nickel was on that same card as you. That's a couple eyes on that one for sure.
Yeah, it'll be massive.
Mate, so training since 14 years old, you're 28 now. How validating is it to finally get that call up and get your shot?
Yeah, you can't even explain it. Especially too, because it's like at some point you do everything you can, but at some point it's just out of your hands. Like they'll either ring the phone or they won't. You can go in there and win fights as much as you want. And I thought I did everything I could to put myself in the right position, but that didn't guarantee it necessarily. So, super validating. Even sometimes you would say vindicated as well, because, it's you have a lot of people sort of questioning and doubting you along the way, thinking whether it's going to pay off or not. And it still hasn't. I've still got work to do to make it worthwhile for myself. But yeah, it's a very good feeling.
Good to hear, man. Really good to hear. So what were the emotions like? Who was the first person that you told once you found out?
I rang my mum and dad, and just by chance, my partner was there meeting our niece for the first time. My sister had a baby. So I was just lucky I caught them all at the same time. So yeah, got my mum, my dad, my sister, my partner, all at the same time. So it was really good. It was just the normal emotions. They were all pretty upset. My dad had a bit of a coughing fit and had to sit down because he was so excited. But everyone was wrapped. And then on from there, called both my brothers, because they were both in different areas. So called my brothers and and then let my friends know, and that was it. Yeah, so sort of had like a couple of hours where my head was in the clouds. I rang Jimmy Crute pretty quickly as well. We've been training together for a long time, and we've always said we wanted to get on the same card one day, like we used to back in the Hex days. And now it looks like that's closer to us being achieved than it ever has been. So yeah, that was
man.
Order of events. And after I'd called everyone, I had a couple of hours where I was real happy, and then it was just back to business. Started watching his fights, started coming into the gym and talking about it with my coaches straight away.
Yeah, I do want to get onto your opponent in a second, but you've spoken in the past about fighters getting into the UFC off the backs of things like having teammates in and having coaches that might have been, in the promotion at one point. What does it mean to you to be able to be doing it off of your own back?
Yeah, it's awesome. It's like you said, it's real validating as well that I didn't have necessarily someone pulling strings for me. I had my people along the way who have helped me out. I'm not saying I did this by myself by any stretch of the imagination, but just that last push for somebody to say, hey, get this guy in. I never had that. I had to do it, myself. And, now my plan is to go in and bust the door down and then open the floodgates for the rest of my teammates and and get myself into a position where I can be that guy for other people coming through and put them in good positions early on. And, it's one step at a time, but I'd love to be able to do that for a lot of my teammates and sort of say to them, hey, if you get to 5-0, we'll get you straight in, or hey, if you do X, Y, or Z, I'll talk to them for you. So yeah, that's the plan from here. But it's good that I was able to do it from where I was.
Who are those teammates? Who's coming up at the moment through your gym? Give some of the young lads a shout out.
Well, Khan and me are of a similar age. Khan stepped in to take over Justin. We both actually have the same record. We're both 9-2 as well. Khan's going to get his shot very soon, I believe, anyway, and he'll probably do it off his own back. You've got Joey Luciano, who's another one who's about our age, who's on that cusp of probably a couple of fights away from being the number one guy here in Oz at welterweight. And then, on the younger spectrum of things, like Semakati Kakembo, who we've got a few years on, but Sem's really well positioned to put himself in a good spot. And then we've just got a heap of amateur guys underneath that. Sam Miles and Dylan Lahari, Jacob Prosser, he's sitting next to me, a little smile on his face when he gets back from injury. I'm sure he'll be kicking goals. And yeah, we've got lots of people coming through. Mitch Dolph sitting next to me, he's looking skinny at the moment. I don't think he has any ambitions to fight in the UFC, but he'll do his bit. But yeah, we've got a lot of guys who are have the ability to do it. It's just whether they'll last it out and whether they'll be here when the time comes for them.
Just on that amateur scene, I mean, when you were coming up, it's definitely grown in the last couple of years. It's massive at the moment, the amount of amateurs coming through. How much of an impact do you think that's going to have on the sport, in 10 years' time? Is it going to look anything like it looks today?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say because you'll get less people turning pro because people will figure out earlier that they don't want to do it at different parts. Because you had a lot of guys in sort of my crop and above me who might have had like 2, 3, 4 fights and then been like, nah, fuck, this isn't for me. Or, maybe I just want to try it. Whereas now all those guys will never actually get to the pro ranks because they'll just go through the amateurs as they should. A little bit safer, a little bit less damage. But it's completely changed. Like the biggest thing is that all sports evolve, and you're stupid if you think it doesn't. Like anyone who holds on to the belief that guys 10 years ago wouldn't get beaten up by guys now, it's crazy. And you look at the kids now that are training. I coach a couple of kids. There's one kid in particular. His name's Jack Power, and I coached him a few years ago, and his jiu-jitsu and stuff is of an incredibly high level, and you realize that you're looking at a kid. It's kind of like if you start learning French and you talk to a kid who's been speaking French because one of their parents is French when they're a kid. It's like, fuck, this kid can speak. He's like that with his jiu-jitsu and with his striking. And you look at him and you're like, fuck, I can't believe that somebody in that small body can have such a skill set. So it's when those guys start to come through, you're going to really notice it.
For sure, man. We'll move on to your fight now. Changing opponents sort of halfway through the camp, how does that affect your preparation?
Not too drastically. Change small bits here and there and watch out for different things. But I've got a forward pressure, and my style tends to change the way people fight. You would have seen a lot of people in lead ups to fights. They say they're going to do X, Y, and Z against me, and then that never actually eventuates by the time the fight comes because of the kind of pressure I put on and the way I move when I'm in front of people. So I'm not trying to change too much of what I'm doing. I'm just working on some of my cleanups after my combos in areas we think he might be open and that sort of thing. But until you get out there and actually feel it out, we don't know. And it says on his profile he's only like 169 centimeters, which is like my height, but I think he's taller than that. So I think he'll be a bit taller than me and stuff. So I'm not over planning, but I'm definitely not under planning.
Just on the note of your style, sort of shutting people down, I think maybe a good example of that is Rob Costa in the last fight. He just couldn't seem to get anything off. I know Ben Vickers has said afterwards, he didn't really show up. But to you, looking back on that, did he not show up, or was that more you sort of pitching a little bit of a shutout?
Pick your poison. It's the same thing, isn't it? You can don't show up or show up. You had 5 rounds to show up and 10-8'd in nearly all of them. So
fair enough. You're training this time around, so strictly at Absolute in Melbourne, or are you getting some cross training in anywhere?
Pretty much just at Absolute. Yeah, haven't really cross trained much at all. My striking coach Andy Colgrave is away at the moment, so I've been getting some striking with some different boys. There's boys here holding pads for me, but he gets back in the next week or so he'll be able to come over to Vegas with me. And we've been training together for so long that as soon as he's back, we'll just click into our rhythm and do our thing again. And I've been doing this for long enough that I know, I sort of know what I need to do to get my body ready and know how to cross each box off as we go. Sorry, mate, just one sec. You want to jump back in? Just put the timer back. I know where I'm at with fitness and that sort of stuff as well. And I'm actually in a really good spot fitness-wise and weight-wise for being this far out. So, yeah, just training with the boys down here at Absolute and doing what I can every day.
Good to hear, man. Your opponent for September 27, Freddy Linares. What stands out to you most about him?
He's tough, pressure fighter, walks forward, throws big 1-2s. Not much else. Yeah. A little bit sloppy on the break, carries his hands pretty low on exit, blades his front foot when he steps across. We'll see how he goes in against someone in a southpaw stance as well, because I go both ways. So I'm going to be testing him from that backhand when I'm in southpaw. So yeah, lots of different angles for me to hit. But when you go in, it's always different when you go in there and you stood in front of someone. So he's tough and he's definitely earned his shot. You can see his record. But I believe I'm on a different level, and I'm going to get in there and show that.
On your style as well, you've got a pretty solid switch style that's coming a lot more common in MMA. Can you explain to people that might not be super clued on, explain why it's so important to have such a fluid stance and be able to work from both sides?
So it's mostly important. The way I use it is that I like to find holes. Like I don't like to just stand and throw and hope for the best or throw set combos and stuff. I like to bait people into doing the wrong thing or catch them when they've overcommitted. And essentially, if you can go in both stances, you double your offensive capabilities. So, my rear leg power kick, if I only stand in orthodox, I've got one rear leg power kick and I can only hit one side. Whereas if I go in both stances, I've got a rear leg power kick from my right leg and then I can swap and I've got that rear leg power kick from my left leg. So that happens with everything. You've got two of everything essentially if you can go both ways. And then if you go to the next level up from that, which is you sort of fluid between your stances as you're being offensive and as you're being defensive, you can really start to find holes in people's games as you go. But as you said, it's more fluid now. Like there's not many guys coming through now who can't do at least the bare minimum in both stances.
It's definitely becoming a lot more common. And it's really good to see. It's I don't know. It just adds another layer to that sort of chess game for everyone. It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
As you're watching, like as someone who does it, as you're watching and you're seeing guys switch and move through their positions, while you're like, oh, look at how he's setting this up. Like I didn't realize until the weekend how well Leon Edwards did it. Like I always thought Leon Edwards was a good boxer, a good orthodox boxer, and then the way he moved between his stances was what I found most impressive. Not so much the weapons that he used, which were great, but the way he waited for people to circle in certain directions as he swapped his stances. He was very, very good at that.
Back to your opponent and you. My God, I'm struggling here. How do you match up? How do you match up with someone like that? How do you feel you match up with someone like that with a power striker?
Yeah, pretty well. I haven't really fought anyone recently that kind of brings that style. But I've got a lot of training partners that can emulate that style. It's not necessarily a hard one to emulate, that walk forward, throw 1-2s. So if you look at my last few fights, they've all really been grapple dominant guys. So I've shown my striking. This might be a chance for me to show my grappling as well. Go out there and mix up the takedowns as well and get him second guessing about which level I'm going to be on when I come in, and then I can let my hands and feet go after that. But I don't think that there's certain styles. Like it's not like I don't see 1-2s in the gym. He's going to throw 1-2, maybe sometimes clean up with the hook, and he's going to try and fight in that middle distance range. But that's where I shine, in that mid range. Like when I'm standing just in front of you and I can feint and get you to bite, that's my best range. So if he plans on finding comfortability in that range, he's going to be shocked when he gets in there with me.
Onto the format of the Contender series itself. It prioritizes finishes. I'm interested to see, does that have an effect on your game plan or your mindset going in, or are you there to get it's tough with the Contender series because you can go to get the win, but you're not necessarily getting the contract that way.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just trying to treat it like all my other fights to get in the UFC. The UFC make it really, really obvious from when you're on the local scene to when you transfer through that they like people who have exciting styles and exciting fights. So I've built my career around trying to emulate that style that they want to see. So I'm not going to get a shot on Contenders as opposed to straight in the UFC and completely try and change something to suit the Contender series. I think I've got enough tools and I do enough damage in my fights and the way I move, and I'm exciting enough that I'll if I show up and do what I can do, then I'll get a contract. But yeah, I'm not going to go in there and just start throwing hell for leather and hope that I catch him with something when that's just not my style. Like I'm an IQ fighter. I find holes in people, I pick them apart, I shut down what they're good at doing, and then I go from there. So I'm just going to keep doing that.
And your last fight out against Rod that we spoke about before, 5-round experience in the bag after that one. Was that something that you kind of wanted to have under your belt before you made the jump?
Yeah, not necessarily. I would have liked to get him out of there in the third or fourth if I could have gone for it. But Rod's dangerous on the ground, and you even saw at the end of that fight that he still had his opportunities to get to where he was really good. So I was just intent on doing as much damage I could from a position where I wasn't overcommitting and putting myself at risk. Yeah, good to get 5 rounds in, but then I fought 4 rounds against Diego, and that was a different style. That was more of a technical stand-up battle. It was a bit more back and forth. In my last 4 or 5 fights, I've prepared for 5-round fights. So this is a 3-round fight, so I'm preparing slightly differently in terms of just my output round to round might change a little bit. But it was good to get the experience, I would think.
What have I done there? Would you prefer a more of a slow build if and when you get into the UFC, or pretty keen to get
Fuck.
No?
Put me,
Not a chance.
Yeah, put me in wherever I can make the most money and make the most waves in the shortest amount of time. I'm here for a good time, not a long time. The fighting can get taken away from you at any point. You can do an ACL and you're out for 12 months, and then when you come back, it's never the same. There's so many small things that can happen. So I'm taking the approach that I'm ready to be at the top echelon of my division by the time I get in. And that's how I'm running with it. So I'm not interested in getting in and having one fight, 6 months off, another fight, 6 months off. I'm going to go in and it's going to be go, go, go. Sean Shelby is going to be annoyed at me after 6 months of me being in, because I'm getting him a message every week saying when am I fighting next and where.
Take the hums out, right, Matt?
Yeah. Well, that's the real way.
A couple more from me before I let you go. I'd love to get your take on Eternal. Just a couple things from that. The competition, does that adequately prepare you, do you feel, for international level competition?
The Australian scene is strong. If you're fighting on shows that are putting on the best fights consistently, then you're going to get well prepared. And I think that standard has shown. Jack Dalla went across and he's done absolutely shiningly in the UFC. So our standard in general here in Australia, New Zealand is really high. Anyone who's getting to the top echelon and staying there in those Eternal divisions and other promotions like that are gonna do well. But every fight's different. You can go in there and you can get caught and look like you don't belong there, and if you don't show up, even though you maybe do. So it's all, what fighting's like. Usman dominated that fight for the majority of it and then got caught. That's the beauty and the beauty and the curse of the sport at the same time.
That is exactly why we love the sport. The pathway to UFC that sort of Eternal have sort of fostered in the last couple of years, how important do you feel that is for younger fighters that are sort of aspiring to get to that point?
If you go and you win fights, you get picked up. It's that simple. People have gone through all the different promotions. Eternal are the best at it right now, and they've done such a great job getting on the UFC Fight Pass and providing a platform for us. But at the end of the day, you show up and you win fights, you get opportunities.
And last one from me, mate. Can we get just a prediction for the fight? What have you got for us? How do you reckon it's going to go?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a round 2 TKO.
There you go. Put money on
Yeah.
it. Actually, how you gonna win? How are you gonna celebrate? I should say. How are you gonna celebrate the win?
Probably get on the first flight back to Melbourne and go back to Smash and hang out with my mates.
Fair enough, man.
The bright lights of Vegas are nice, but have you ever been to Flemington on a Saturday in spring?
It's a good spot. It's definitely a good spot, man. Well,
Yeah.
you enjoy that. We'll catch you on September 27 on the Contender series. Thank you once again for joining us, Jack. It's been a pleasure to chat,
Awesome,
man.
mate. No worries. Thanks for having me.